absurd rate this year. Like something has to stop, you know?
I'm actually just going to start this show right in the middle of a combo that we were just starting to have because it's worth it. Which we're talking about how chalk is hitting at an astronomical rate this year. We created this show, Look Who's Chalking, and apparently the whole world. The whole world is chalking. Like in the movie The Faculty, everyone starts turning into aliens. Everyone's all chalk's hitting. Defense, offense, you name it. So Gary's showing me the millionaire lineup, and he's telling me about how this is the highest percentage. I'll let you take over.
Yeah. So the TJ Hernandez tweeted this out, but it's funny. I actually on Sunday night I did this math myself, and I was like, did the Million Maker winner really have 190% cumulative ownership? What that means, all that means is you look at the percent that everyone was owned and you add it all up. So it's just 190% is absurd for any lineup. Like no tournament player should be playing a lineup that has a projected cumulative ownership of over like 150, and that's really high. I maxed mine out around 130. This guy won with 190, meaning he played a 43% Jets defense, a 47% Josh Jacobs, a 32% Kenneth Chalker III, a 21% Austin Eckler, 17% Burrow, 15% Chase. And that's with 3 single-digit guys with Hartman, Campbell, and Hurst in there. So, like, it's just ridiculous how much chalk.
To his defense, do you know what I think he's saying? He's saying, I will go through Chalk Fest 2022. And do you want to know what's going to separate me? My one ultra sniff in McCole Hardman.
Yeah. And it was smart. The Hardman play was, I mean, obviously, in hindsight, everything's 2020, but I played a lot of Chiefs last week. I was way over the field, and Hardman's like the one guy I didn't go in on, which I was kicking myself. I mean, you couldn't anticipate 2 rushing touchdowns there, obviously, which is what really got him there. But still, I mean, 3 total touchdowns.
Because the other guys, I mean, Scanling went over 100, right? And Juju
he was
went
like
over 100.
3 for 1. They were all good, and Kelsey got a little banged up, but MVS was 3 for 111. Juju was definitely viable. He had 100 yards and a touchdown. So yeah.
So it's just chalk central this year. And that's
every week.
I don't want to say disconcerting, but that is.
I'll say this: it's mostly been at running back, and I've always said that running back's the place you can eat chalk the most. Like even in my Millie Maker lineup 2 years ago, which by the way was Week 8, 2020. So let's wish fingers crossed for this year. But even in my Millie Maker lineup, I had Derrick Henry at 20% owned, and he busted, and it was still fine, right? So like running back's the place that you can eat it more than other positions, just because the margins are so much thinner. Like you need to hit that properly. But still, for it to be hitting at this massive of a rate, like Eckler, Walker, and Jacobs were obviously the 3 best running backs on the slate last week. There was no debating it by every projection, by matchup, everything. But if you're playing all 3 of them together, you're putting yourself right in such a tight spot to find any leverage elsewhere. Obviously, this guy did a great job with his Campbell and Hardman, but still. So I made a rule that you can only use 2 of those 3 guys in every lineup. And I still would make that rule this week. It was the right decision. It's just crazy that all 3 of them, got there. And Eckler wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for the end late touchdown anyway, but regardless.
What I was trying to do was like, okay, well, I know everyone wants to use Chalker and Jacobs. So in lineups where I use Chalker, how about I use Pierce? Because it's unlikely someone's going to go the chalk of Jacobs and then the other running back in that same game along with his other chalk. So I tried to do it like that. But I will say this, you somewhat saved my week in that last week you said, if you're going to eat chalk somewhere, do it at running back. So I had a lineup or 2 where I had some of those chalk running backs that I didn't just fade just because they were chalk. And that saved my ass. And it also seemed like it was a Burrow or nothing week. It seemed like there was such a big disparity between him and the other quarterbacks. Either you had him in your lineup and you cashed, or you did not.
Yes. Well, Mahomes got there too, but the price difference on Burrow between Mahomes obviously made Burrow the guy that you wanted. But yeah, Burrow too. I'm happy he's off the main slate because I don't know if I was going to be able to buy into the 3-peat for Joe Burrow 3 weeks in a row here. Although he's an excellent fantasy quarterback, and like he's similar to Nick Chubb actually in that the models don't capture what he does. Like I think he has 12 games of his first like 22 starts of his career that are over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like I think most people have, or what I don't know if 12 is the right number, but an absurd amount of his percentage of games. Like most people have that for their entire career, the amount he's already done. It's like, it's impossible to protect.
You can see why, man. That's the equivalent of having like Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown over there. Any given game can go over 400, but then you get lulled into a Well, that's just not going to happen because he's being swallowed behind that offensive line as soon as he looks up. And that was the case almost every single week. Now, I would have to go back and watch that last game a little more closely to see if maybe they're starting to gel together or if Atlanta just had a garbage game, on the line of scrimmage. And Burrow had a rare opportunity to actually survey the field. So I guess we'll take a look at that going forward. But it was a very chalky week. And I don't want to say good, bad, but these chalk people, they got to get what's coming to them eventually. The Sniffers beat the Chalkers in the end. You know that. So that's the Greasers and the Socias.
Yeah.
It's the Chalkers versus the Sniffers. And you know what team I'm on. All right. Look at the size. I wasn't given this big nose not to sniff. It's like Matthew Stafford throwing it 50 yards. You got an arm, you're going to use it. You got a nose, you're going to sniff it. All right, so on to
you just casually snuck in that Outsiders reference, by the way.
Yeah. That was always the. All right, you want me to go WWF, WCW?
Yeah. I was a big fan of the Outsiders. But anyway, that was a big outlier week, is what I have to say. If you read closer, go check out TJ's thread on that if you want to learn a little bit more about cumulative ownership and what usually wins in tournaments. But the average Millie Maker winner since 2019 was 111% cumulative ownership. The highest since this one was 158% over the last 3 years. So this guy had 40% extra cumulative ownership than anyone has ever had winning the Millie. And it's crazy. So anyway, I'm going to write about it.
Gary, I'm picturing a chalk party happening where people are all doing regular things and celebrating doing the most chalky stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Well, our old friend Brian Cannell is sitting in a chair in the middle of the room, and then there's
exactly
Floyd Mayweather and MacBook computers and everything.
There's MacBooks. There's Coca-Cola, the red bottle.
Right.
Of course,
the straight Coca-Cola. Yeah. The Lay's classic chips are all around. Those are the only things in the bowls.
It's a Lay's classic everywhere.
Lay's classic.
That is so good. And that they were all celebrating. They said, "We told you if you take the best picks, you will win eventually." Yeah. Now let me go back to my 2 kids and wife and 3 meals a day and 2,000 calorie diet and $100,000 job.
What's
on to week 8?
What's the chalkiest Halloween costume these days? It's Ted Lasso. I feel like Ted Lasso has been the chalkiest one now for a couple of years. When I was growing up, it was the screen mask. That was the chalk. If you didn't have
that was big. That was big. Usually it has to do with something that's kind of in season. Maybe they're going to not enough blondes out there to be those Targaryens.
A House of the Dragon thing would for sure be. You just get a long blonde wig. Yeah.
I will say this. One of my friends who's a Jets fan, like a decade ago, he was Brett Favre, and he wore the Favre Jets jersey and kind of like had football pants on with like a prosthetic extremity hanging out with a cell phone next to it.
That's good.
And this was right around the time where I went to the bar and I saw a guy with a Plaxico Burris jersey and then jeans on with just a huge red stain, like where he would have shot himself in the leg. So I've seen some
people get creative with that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some good. I always said what I would like to do, but I'm not going to, is be a soccer ref where I go to a bar and I issue people cards for their poor behavior. And then also, write the actual ticket, hand it to them, show them yellow. I mean, guys would not like that at all. But also, if people are encroaching on your space, I don't know if you've ever seen free kicks. They bring the spray to delineate the line that you're not allowed to cross on a free kick. All that stuff. I think all those are good options. And then the last thing I wanted to do, I'm going to half borrow an idea. I saw a guy who dressed as Aladdin, and he used a hoverboard and put like a blanket over it so it looked like he was riding on a magic carpet. Can you picture that?
Yeah.
I always wanted to be Magneto, if you remember from X-Men, where I was going to put a silver thing like that almost looked like kind of one of those plates you put a pizza pie on when you're rolling the dough, and have that around the hoverboard so it looked like I was doing the Magneto flying around town.
Yeah,
literally hovering around town. But of course I'm not going to do it. What, you think I'm going to do this? Cut out metal footholes in a pizza? No, that's not going to happen.
I don't understand. I know you like Halloween and all the goblins and the ghouls. It's never been for me, but literally they opened up one of those Pop Spirit Halloween shops right across the street from my apartment, and the line was 2 blocks down yesterday. First of all, everyone's a procrastinator. The entire world's a procrastinator. You care so much about Halloween. You got to be thinking about your house. Everyone's going 3 days before, 2 days before, and then they wait on this long line. It's such a waste of their fucking time. I don't understand.
And then what happens? They show up at Party City the morning of, and they got to be the generic ghost wearing a standard blanket with the eyes out. That's what they have to end up being. Now, I know. See, the weird thing is that's the part about Halloween I don't really partake in. I don't enjoy costumes going out. I enjoy horror movies, the tricking more than the treating, and the weather that's associated with it. Like I love the fall weather.
Yeah, it's a good time of year.
Everything around it, because even what's built into it, the week leading up, usually you have NFL, NHL, baseball playoffs for guys like you. Sorry to bring that up. But it's more so the season, the horror movies, and it's a whole bunch of things. But interestingly enough, like dressing up and going out's not one of them.
No, I understand that for sure. Yeah, that's good. It's good. If the tricking rather than the treating, I can get.
I trick kids. I straight up trick kids. I don't care. I really don't. You're talking to the wrong guy. They go trick or treat. You give me an option. You've known me long enough, Gary. I told you about Van Damme at the front door. I'm going trick. So let's look at these games. Week 8. When you take a gander at that slate, who's the main event? Who's Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior? Who's Game of Thrones Sunday at 9, even though I refuse to watch? What's the one matchup that is smiling at you and the rest of that party that's still enjoying their millionaire win?
Well, why don't you slap up the screen here? We can take a look at our friends at EDS.
All right, we're going back, babe. EDS.
We're coming in for you. I got the ads back up for you this week, so don't worry, guys. I know you wanted that revenue. We got to go to visit today. The Volvo.
We're your biggest supporter. We're doing tons of work for you. Eat, drink, sleep.
Lens crafters. We know it's all about this stuff. But anyway, I think you can see here the second highest team totals, the Miami Dolphins at 27.5. I'm going to want to continue to attack these Detroit Lions game environments. 51.5 by far or not by far, because the other game I like with a nice little sniff has come up to 50 as well. But 51.5 on this Dolphins game against the Lions. We get another week further from Tua, hopefully, knowing what world he's in. And, the Lions defense still continues to suck. So I think a lot of people are going to be attacking this game. I'm curious where ownership's going to come in at on the Dolphins pass catchers, but I have a feeling that Tyreek Hill will be like the most owned receiver of the week. But I think it's something you have to talk about. So
you know who I would love in that game. One of my guys, one of my exes, Raheem Mostert. The ground. He's getting workhorse level opportunities.
Oh yeah. And he's coming through, and in the pass game too. So it's like it's.
And by the way, we still haven't seen that. We still haven't seen that game where they actually give him a solid crease because he's one of the fastest players in the NFL. He can take anyone to the house. We saw Chalker take one to the. No, it wasn't against the Lions. Maybe it was against the Lions. No, Penny took one to the house versus the Lions. But the Lions on the ground are garbage.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke had 2 touchdowns last week. Pollard looked good. This is a really good spot for Mostert, no doubt about it. He's under 6K still. He got 5 targets last week. They've completely written out Chase Edmonds of this offense. Like it's just
as they should.
His backfield. So I like Mostert a lot. Let's see his ownership right now on ETR.
Come on, they're scared. They're still scared of the knee. As they should be.
So again, it's all relative, right? All these running backs are all getting condensed with this chalk. So he is in that group. We got him around 20% right now, but
no,
still 6th highest. So we got.
Hold on, let me get my Halloween costume. I'm giving you a yellow card. They're not going to have the balls to do it because he's so much less exciting than those other ones visually.
Well, I think a lot of people are, after what's been happening the last couple of weeks, are going to jam in. But a lot of sites still weren't projecting out Zeke. So Pollard right now is only at 8%. So you're right. This will get condensed a little bit because Pollard's going to come up way from 8%, going to come out big time. So, but still they got Chalker, Jacobs, Ramondre, Pierce, and Kamara all projected for more ownership than Mostert right now. So
I got news for you. He's going to be under 10.
No.
I know people. I know
he'll be somewhere. I do think he'll be under what we have him right now at 20, but I think he'll be probably around 14, 15.
All right, I can deal with that, but there's not a chance.
It's fine.
It's not so much hit another week, fine. But when people see chalk, the same way they see things on prime time, everyone who lost last week, looking at those winning, the chalk, I need chalk. They're going to take the chalkiest of the chalk this week because people chase last week's pick. The same way, if I have a 5 for 5 night in NHL, everyone tails all my bets the next day. And I go, hey, assholes, you missed the train. The train was yesterday. You want the double train? No, you don't get it. But this is what people do. They chase last week's train and watch them chase the running backs that went off last week.
Yeah, certainly possible. But yeah, I'm with you on Mostert. So anyway, in this game though, I think so Mostert's one way to get different, and I think stacking him with Tua is another way to get different, right? I always talk about doing the quarterback with the running back. If we like this game to play up, and there's no reason they can't get there together. Tua, I'm guessing, is gonna, because there's also not that much firepower at quarterback on this slate. It's like Jalen Hurts and then a huge drop off. So Tua's gonna be right now only Sam Ehlinger, which we'll have to talk about that game, is projecting for more ownership than Tua, which makes sense. I mean, Tua's coming through with like 15%. I've talked about I don't care about ownership at quarterback. I just want to get the right guy, but I do think that doing a Tua Tyreek Hill skinny stack is going to be way too chalky.
Dude, scared. I'm scared of that. I understand the thought behind it, but did you watch what happened to that offense after the scripted first, 2 drives were finished?
For Miami last week?
Against one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah.
They couldn't move the ball at all at home. That's concerning because when I feel, this is part of Andy's conspiracy picks, a little segment that I do here and there. I believe that the play calling is going to minimize the ability for Tua to take a hit that could potentially look bad on television. I think that's the case because I know when everyone's looking at a player with a magnifying glass, you got to be careful that there's no iffy situations out there. And I think this has a potential to screw you. I mean, when was the last time we saw him move the ball up and down the field? Even though he hasn't played lately.
Week 2. I mean, week 2 was that huge week, right? It's basically an outlier game because he had the injury, and then he has not shown any ability to have a ceiling besides that insane game against Baltimore in week 2. So
yeah, that's insane. I mean, and we've seen freak quarterbacks have insane. I'm just saying, like, I think they cemented a narrative early that with those 2 receivers and the coach, that was a week 2 game. Teams are 8 weeks into like defenses and schemes, and they're probably getting more comfortable without having any preseason at the beginning of the year. Take it easy with the Tua thing, especially with coming off that injury until we see it. I mean, normally I say like being a week early, but being a week early on what? The one time that he went off this year? I don't know. He's not for me.
I have no problem coming in under. I would be hard pressed to fade it altogether. Also, I think it's because Detroit's going to push here. They're Amon-Ra and Swift practiced in full today, so they'll be about as healthy as they've been, which I think is big. And that matchup's good for them, right? On that side, like you can consider throwing Goff in your pool if you want. We've seen 2 viable weeks out of him already. Like they're going to be chucking. I don't love it, but it's a huge pivot to everyone playing Sam Ehlinger and Geno Smith and Daniel Jones and those guys that are around the same tier. And it's a pivot to this game, right? Because everyone's going to play Tua on this game. This is like a real large field GPP type of thing, but like I haven't even thought about it until right now, but I'm talking myself into making a couple Jared Goff lineups, honestly.
All right, back to EDS we go.
Yeah. So anyway, in that game, I just wanted to say I like Waddle as a pivot to Hill as well. And then I don't, would you be a week early on Swift? Like he hasn't played now since week 3, and it was really concerning that he didn't play last week. Everyone thought he was going to be ready to go last week, and then he was scratched. So I don't know.
I'm not gonna play him for a simple reason. Even week 1, you're talking about a guy that's barely getting 50% of the snaps, and he's not getting the goal line work. You're hoping that those people who hope that a handful of touches go as they did or as well as they did in those previous couple weeks. I know how good he is, but Jamal Williams eats so much work from him and has been efficient at the goal line. So how can he hit the ceiling as one of these other freaks who is going to get twice? I don't know. I feel more comfortable that Mostert will outscore Swift.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And then that's pretty much it on this game. I'm going to be in on Amon-Ra at 6,900 a lot because I think everyone's going to be scared that he left that game early last week. He didn't have a concussion. He was just in concussion protocol. And I think
the fake concussion.
The casuals will be like, oh, he had a concussion. And so I think it's under 7K. I really like him a lot. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a good call. Gary, that's a nice sniff because, it's somebody funny, but like he left the game with a concussion, although it was ruled he didn't have a concussion, but don't worry, he's limited in practice in concussion protocol.
Only 12% right now projected ownership on Amon-Ra, which is way too low in my opinion.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. Next game. So this is Bills Packers not on the main slate. This one is though, and I think it's worth talking about it because obviously only a 43-point total, and this is the Eagles Steelers, but the Eagles have the second highest implied total of the main slate, 10.5-point spread, and Jalen Hurts is by far the highest ceiling quarterback on the slate this week. And because everyone's going to be jamming in Tua and Ellinger and these cheap, ugly quarterback plays, Hurts is going to fall through the cracks here. Not that many people are going to be playing Eagle stacks. I'm curious if you would be interested.
I think I'm going to do with him what I did with Mahomes last week. I said I'm going to I don't have the balls to put him in my power sweeps because I don't do a lot of lineups, but I will do him.
I would recommend you doing one in the power sweep with him, I think. Of you do all three, right?
Yeah.
You do 3 lineups? Yeah, I would recommend doing a Hurts lineup personally.
I will. And I'm not kidding. Those people who think, oh, he's just saying I will, but then he's going to put in someone else. No, I will because like Gary said this week at quarterback, it's very, very iffy. My only concern in this game is Pittsburgh has played 2 games that has got their defense feeling better about itself, playing harder when they beat the Bucs, and then last week went down to the absolute wire. Then there's that rivalry, that Pennsylvania thing. I don't know if Sirianni is going to call this as aggressively as he would against the Houston Texans or something like that. And I'm just worried that he'll go to one of those game scripts where, look, let's control this game, control the line of scrimmage, and
it could be ugly.
Kind of run it down their throat.
My thought on that would be Philly's coming off the bye. They're at home. And if it is run heavy, Hurts will be a big part of that, obviously. I mean, look at his rushing numbers are big. And then also, I just think he gets there in such an easy way to hit a ceiling. Like he gets there with scoring 2 rushing touchdowns a lot. Like he's done that twice already this year.
You're right there. You're right, Gary.
And
You're
so
right.
like, even if this game goes 28-14 or something like that, I would guess you get at least 1 rushing touchdown, possibly 2 passing. If you get 80 yards on the ground, 280 yards in the air, and with the quarterback pool this week, like that could be easily what you need, even at 8,300. So I just think he's got a ceiling to himself. And the 10-point spread thing, I always talk about that. Like, I wish the game environment was a little better, like you mentioned. Like, I just wish Pittsburgh could push a little more. I wish it'd be a little bit faster pace. But the 10-point spread thing is almost a good thing, I think, in the Eagles' favor in that regard. So
anyway. I like AJ Brown's due for a massive game.
Yep.
Like I'm talking about, he's due for one of those week 1 type games. And you see that? Like, it's just a lot of lingering. Hasn't topped 100 since week 1.
Yeah, good matchup too. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, that is that I bet nobody plays him. There's no reason to play him at his price.
Dude, yeah, he's coming through with single-digit ownership right now, 3-4%. So, yeah, it's a great play. Excellent option.
EDS.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not really interested in much else in that game. I'll play Sanders. I'll play Devonta. I'll play Goddard. I'll play AJ Brown. Like those are all guys I'll have exposure to. This game is
always remember my Eagles theory, by the way. Friendly, soft indoor games, Arizona, Devontae Smith, physical, down your throat type of game, AJ Brown.
I love you go. Always remember my Eagles theory. I've been saying this for years.
If I've said something once casually, always remember that you had to listen to one episode 3 weeks ago, and casually said it once.
These guys have been teammates for 7 weeks, but I've been saying this for decades.
Decades. But my new school that you know what? It's great that you said that because now you don't have an excuse because I'm telling you before you saw the first AJ Brown. I was doing stacks in that Arizona game when I was leaving AJ Brown out of them. One of those speed type of environments. I use Devontae Smith in crusty outdoor environments against physical teams. I use AJ Brown, and let's see how that one works out.
Yeah,
but remember that for next time.
I agree with you for sure. Yeah, so next game to talk about, definitely, I think Minnesota, Arizona. I know we obviously hate Cliff. We don't like playing into that at all. This is in Minnesota. Minnesota's coming off the bye. There's blowout potential here, I think. Arizona's coming off that win on Thursday night. They got into a little bit of a shootout finally. I do think there's blowout potential on Minnesota's side, but I also think there's a chance of Arizona replicating what happened in New Orleans on a long. They're on 10 days rest.
You got to highlight that. You better highlight that score again, because I don't know how many pick sixes you're like. I would have loved to know how that game was going to play out without multiple pick sixes, because I do. 6% of me believes that Kyler with Hopkins back, maybe in his mind, has a little more freedom and can get a little bit of that magic back, because he gave Hopkins a ton of looks. But they still were not moving that ball easily. They were trailing Dalton in his awful record in prime time. And if it wasn't for a couple of pick sixes, I would have loved to see how that one was going to go. And then you got on the other side Cousins, who can make a game of any opponent. What this is crazy. But
it's a prime
obviously seems like a smash spot for Jefferson.
Yeah, so Jefferson's going to be chalk. But I think it's, again, I'd rather play chalk at running back, but I don't think it's bad chalk. Actually, he's come through with like 15%, and that's because of price. He would be like a 25-30% play if he was. DraftKings pricing.
Don't you remember? But don't you remember, Gary? Nobody ever pays for Justin Jefferson these last 2 years. No, like ever. He's been single digits since the beginning of time.
Yeah. I think because no Cup on this slate. Oh no, there is Cup. Who was I thinking off the slate? Oh, Diggs. It might help. It might push these guys up a little bit. And Cup's got the tougher matchup. Jefferson's going to be in play by a lot of people. Would you play Cousins? Because he hasn't shown it this year yet, but 6,100 at home against the Vikings coming off.
My problem is I don't believe that the Arizona will not push anybody. Yeah. They will not push anybody. They will not go up a score, 3-and-out you, and go right back down the field and score. They're going to run it with Eno Benjamin. How many carries did he have? How many touches did he have?
Yeah, he had a lot last week, right?
Something is still funky there.
12 carries, 4 catches. Yeah, pretty solid. I don't know if Connor's questionable. I don't know if he's coming back.
I bet you he'll play.
Practice limited. Honestly, if he plays, I don't even know if I guess you have to throw somebody in your pool just because you want the exposure to the game. But I wouldn't force either of those Cardinals running backs in that case.
And now it's scary to use Ertz and Moore after seeing how little they were used last week. Someone like Cook is nice.
But do you like Cook here though? Because if you don't love Cousins because you don't love the pushing side of Arizona, you probably like Cook, right? Because if you're taking Minnesota to win this game, and convincingly, I would imagine Cook. We still haven't seen it. We saw a 26-point game. They
don't beat anybody convincingly.
Game. Yeah, I don't know. They're look at
those scores. Look at those scores.
Yeah, they're 5-1.
Look at that. That still counts as those are all one-score games.
Yeah.
Every single win is a one-score
It's interesting.
win.
I think Cousins is a good play this week because I just think he's in 1:00. They're at home. It's a great matchup. They're coming off a bye. If there is going to be an explosion spot for Minnesota, I feel like it's this week. But I'm with you on the Arizona pushing. Let's say Arizona does push, just hypothetically. Is it Hopkins for you? Who else are we even getting into on this Arizona side? It's just Hopkins. I think it's Hopkins, right?
It has to be, because if they're pushing, there's really only one way. Because if the other players do well, they're playing that style that I've hated. There's 2-yard passes to Ertz, 4-yard passes to Moore, and then a bunch to Marquise Brown, when they have to, down 2 scores. It's just been so awful to watch. And
no, I agree.
If they do play in that environment, it's going to probably be through Hopkins.
Yeah, I think I'm totally off Ertz now with Hopkins back, just because Ertz's whole thing was a massive target share, and clearly Kyler's going to be wanting to push. I know it's a 1-game sample, but 14 targets in that first game back, is really...
The reason it's weird is because if you look when Ertz got there last year, that ruined Hopkins.
Yeah.
Hopkins never had a big game after Ertz was acquired.
It's true.
Everything's weird over there, man.
Oh yeah, I can't believe Cliff still has a job, but he saved his job by that lucky win in New Orleans last week. For now,
yeah. Don't they have 3 wins now? So there's somehow 3-4, and that division's a bunch of losers. So what are they? 1 game out of the division?
All right. Do they really have 3 wins?
Yeah, Panthers. Carr gave them the fake one, and now they got a pick 6 game. Kyler Murray's won 0 games. I guess you can credit him for the comeback in against the Raiders.
Oh yeah, they beat the Raiders. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so he gets to say, "What are you talking about? We're 1 game out of the division lead."
Yeah, it's true. I have a hard time going here, but yeah, I don't know. And then the running back. So, but anyway, I think Thielen's sneaky this week. I think Thielen's sneaky. 6,200. A lot of people are going to play Jefferson. Yeah, go ahead.
An old white guy coming off a week of rest. I'll trust that.
Look at the targets. The targets are still there, and we know he has like 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, and we know he has he's got a sniff for the end zone. He's got a nose for the end zone. He sniffs the end zone very nicely sometimes. It's been a while,
absolutely.
Though. But, so I like Thielen. I like the Vikings double, and then I think Irv Smith's actually a good play. He's been really consistent. It's a great matchup against tight ends for against the Cardinals, and his target share is just consistent. It's just there. So he just needs to find the end zone. And with tight end being one of those weaker positions, we got no Kelsey on this slate, no Andrews on this slate. Kittle's against the Rams. So I think Irv's a good one.
But, I have a weird tight end that I would like to throw.
By the way, great Kittle call last week. Excellent Men's Warehouse. Good job.
And DJ Moore.
He said, "Good job." I'm patting you on the back. Good job, Andy. I'm proud of you.
Good job is a normal thing. Like, good job. No, you can say that. That's not demeaning. Trust me. If you said something even remotely patronizing, I would let you know. Good job is. I've said that to you. But you see it like when Garoppolo wants to get into these games, it's always through Kittle, especially early, the first drive. I need to start taking first drive props for George Kittle, but that's just a steady ramp up in production. And now Debo, I believe, he's got a little hamstring issue, and
2 yards away from the bonus too. And he was the perfect tight end regardless, but it could have been a huge day.
So go all the way down in tight end. This is going to be disgusting. I believe he's 33. Where's Noah Fant?
Oh yeah, against the Giants, 28.
So I played him 2 weeks ago, and he had a serviceable day. But if DK Metcalf doesn't play against the Giants,
I was just talking about Irv Smith against them, the same matchup. So yeah.
Oh, nice. But if DK Metcalf doesn't play, and we still believe that Geno Smith is playing solid football through the air, it's just a very cheap option that he's a pretty good player. And look, before last week, 45, 49, 6 catches, 3 catches. It's just somebody if you need. I'm going to find myself playing Saquon Barkley this week, and I just like throwing Noah Fant in the tight end.
I think it's a great call. Great call. He's too cheap. I don't get why he had gotten back up to over 3K, and then just because he had one down game last week, they brought him back down to 2,800. I get that.
Oh, he was 28. I thought he was 33.
No, he's 2,800. I get that he isn't his role isn't great, but what's weird is he had his highest snap percentage share of the season, and they still brought him back down to 2,800. This is a sharp play, Andy. Like I don't know what his ownership's going to be, but especially if Metcalf's not in, like how are we not going all? He's going to be chalk. He's going to be chalk. I haven't even gotten this far yet, but apparently he's projecting to be the highest owned tight end. What? Oh yeah,
he hasn't had a good week all year.
It's the role. It's the no Metcalf in the price. People love playing the punt tight ends.
Give me that tight end list. No, we're not undoing I'll get you some sharp. You want something sharp? I'll give you something sharp.
But I don't know. Then maybe just play some Will Disley on the other side. You can.
No. I'm not going to take random chances.
It's not random though. He scores touchdowns. Totally. Like, and if everyone and their mother is going to play Noah Fant this week, if he's coming in over 20%, then you throw Disley in your pool. That's what you do.
All right. Let me see.
In your power sweep lineups, you don't do that, but you do it in large field. Juwan is smart. Juwan's a good play. As long as Adam Trautman doesn't play, Juwan's role has been really, really good. This is a good matchup for him. He's a good play.
Well, I guess naturally that's a perfect progression to that game. It's a game that you mentioned right before we started recording, the New Orleans game. There's.
Want to hear something disgusting? I'm going to hand build a couple of Andy Dalton lineups this week.
Don't worry. Remember last year, I was scared to tell you that I did a Garoppolo.
So the Vegas has been the best matchup for quarterbacks this year. They Vegas have been getting crushed against quarterbacks. This is at home in the Dome. The Saints are on the long week. We saw the Saints be willing to air it out with Andy Dalton last week. Back to the Red Rifle days of Cincinnati with AJ Green way back when. We got flashes back to that. The matchup is as good pretty much against Arizona.
But do you think really they'll allow him to do that after 3 interceptions and 2 pick sixes?
They're starting him. Like I think it's a really good spot. I'm actually in my FFPC main event league. I have Mahomes on a bye this week, and the rosters are too thin to carry a quarterback on your bench. So I picked up Dalton to stream this week. There's no better option for me. So I don't mind.
No, against the Raiders, of course.
Yeah, right.
Of course.
Anyway, I don't know if it'll be in my optimizer, but I will hand build a bunch of Dalton lineups. And then Olave is going to be chalk at only 6K. I mean, his target share is nuts.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I like it.
Maybe Johnson is a good.
I think Jawan's smart. And then I'm guessing Michael Thomas isn't going to play. Yeah. He didn't practice again yesterday. But I like the Raiders side here too. No way, we're not taking Derek Floor Carr.
Look at him smiling at you saying, I'll never do anything good for you.
Yeah, not taking you, but I will take plenty of Adams. I'm going to keep trying on Renfro. Why not?
Me too.
He's 4,900. Like, it's too cheap. And then we'll see if Waller plays. He limited. He was limited yesterday.
He really screwed me this year, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then Jacobs. What are you doing with Jacobs? Because they brought him up finally. He's up $1,000.
No, I'm out.
You're out.
I'm going Shark Tank on the road at New Orleans. They're going to give him a ton of work, and he's going to have his 4 catches, and that prop's going to hit. However, when you have that massive week, that like an ultra massive week, at least we got to say yes, but at least we got to say people kind of forgot a little bit after the bye.
Yeah,
when that game is so fresh in everybody's head.
No, he's going to be chalk. It's funny. It's funny. It's the same
mega chalk.
The same two Chalker and Jacobs, Chalk Jacobs and Kenneth Chalker. We need Chalk and Jacobs' name at this point somewhere too. But they're both going to be the top 2 owned running backs on the week.
Well, then let's build a lineup without those 2 in it, and that's what I was looking at when I took. I think
you're onto something with putting him in there, for sure.
With putting who's that?
Saquon.
All right, so I'm going to go at tight end. Let's just. Oh my God.
By the way, we do have to talk about him too this week. He gets.
Hold on. We're going to get there. Okay. We're going to get there, Gary. That's why.
All right.
So, in the wide receiver position, I want to follow up last week's performance with DJ Moore. He really is the only guy they have. And I know trusting PJ Chalker is scary. This is, I believe, the first time they said in however long both quarterbacks' passing yardages are set under 200. And then running on the opposite side of him, you can do one of 2 things here. You can either go with Pitts in the tight end, or you can, like, if you're not going to go with Fant, I know I have Barkley in this time, so I might go with Fant, but I'm going to go with Drake London, another complete dud, hoping that this is a game of losers. Do you know what I'm talking about? When 2 division losers play each other, and it's like, what is going on in this game? It happens more than you would think. So I'm going to look at those 2 guys. Oh my God, that's disgusting. And to make room for a certain running back that we'll get to in a second, let's just put Chalky Fant in the tight end, and we'll see maybe if we can upgrade it.
Your lineup's very chalky right now. That's all I'll say. But we can get it. We can figure out ways to get it not chalky. But DJ Moore is going to be one of the highest owned receivers on the league.
All right, get out Fant, because I have a way.
Okay.
Put in Schultz.
Yeah. Where's he at? By the way, sorry, the Giants just traded Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs, so I'm a little bit distracted. We'll
talk about that in a sec. And then give me Dak as my quarterback.
Yep, I like that.
And now toss I can curse. Toss fucking Gallup in that wide receiver after putting up a bagel. Give me a rusty defense. Give me like Washington or something. Just toss.
Washington's good. Washington's a good defense this week. I like that a lot. It's really
now show me Derrick Henry. because everyone's going to be playing Pierce. So
So
my thought is, even if I have chalk in my wide receiver positions, if I have Barkley and Henry, who's doing that with the mega chalk?
So-
and I got news for you. I might change one of these guys to put Mostert in that flex. Don't put a running back in the flex.
No, you can.
Eat shit. If people can just put chalk everywhere, I can put Mostert in my flex position.
yeah.
Do you have a bunker receiver or something to make Mostert fit in there?
Well, what? So he's 5,900. Yeah, we could figure out a bunker receiver.
Actually, why don't you talk? Normally, you curb my bad instincts in there. What do you think about a lineup like that?
So it's funny because Saquon and Henry are both. Henry's going to be very owned because he's playing the Texans. I mean, he's going to get a lot of steam. But there's only so many running backs people can play. Everyone wants to play Jacobs. Everyone wants to play Chalker. So while Saquon and Henry will both be between 15 and 20%, not many people are going to play them together in the same lineup. So this is where like combination ownership is important. So like I do think Saquon and Henry together is really, really sharp. I think you're okay because the Dak, Gallup, Schultz thing is going to be so low owned this week. No one's going there. So it's even if you're playing chalk and more, and even if you want to play fan, like you have enough low ownership just in the Dak stack alone. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
Gary. I wanted to ask you something. When I was looking last night, oh my God, this is going to sound so disgusting. The way he played on Monday Night Football, oh my God, I'm going to say it. With the amount that he's rushing and scoring rushing touchdowns, is there any way that you can do a naked Justin Fields?
Yeah, you can. I would not. I would not do it.
I know you hate that guy.
No, it's more matchup based and not being reactionary to one field. But like Dallas is the best pass rush in the league, and I know that Fields is a scrambler, but like he's not good under pressure. So it's not. It's I get it, and everyone's going to play Sam Ehlinger, by the way, for the Colts because he's against Washington and he's literally minimum. So everyone's going to play him. So if you're looking for pivots around him, like I'd rather just go to like Dalton or somebody like that than go to Fields, personally. But
gotcha.
Or even Chalker, dude. I'd even rather go to PJ Walker against Atlanta than go.
Yeah, and my thought, by the way, is Prescott. They needed to get that win, and Chicago. Maybe people are thinking like, oh yeah, the Bears defense. Did you see that? Because their last two games were in prime time against, the Patriots quarterback situation. Then before that, Carson Wentz. The Chicago's defense was unbelievably beatable before that.
Yeah. It was totally. Yeah. I like where you're at right now. I'd want to get Mostert in here too. I got to be more open to getting 3 running backs. It also gives you the opportunity to get exposure to this game. What I would do is go off more personally, just because he's going to be the most expensive, most owned wide receiver on the entire slate, and just take someone in this range like Slayton if you want exposure to the job. Well, you already have Saquon, but you know what I mean. I would try to figure out someone in the 4.
Yeah, what's up with that Jets game? Because Corey Davis got hurt.
Yep.
And then Moore is going to be.
He's
why don't you toss the rookie in there? Yeah, he's playing, but
I think he's a very sharp tournament play, Garrett Wilson, this week.
I got my sharpness back after it was just revoked for Noah Fant.
Sharp is back. Yeah, I like Garrett Wilson for sure. Yep. And then we're not giving you a defense because why would we do that? So there you go. That's
no, we don't give full lineups here, ladies and gentlemen.
I do like this lineup, and you could do yes, you could do the double Dallas stack with no Chicago bring back without a doubt. You don't need a Chicago bring back.
Of course not.
So yeah, I like that. I mean, and you could even I think London's due for a big game. It's been tough. It's been tough sledding for sure. I don't know if I'd rather take a shot on London or Pitts, but both guys I think are.
Yeah, I mean, either or. I mean,
right.
The only reason I just feel like Pitts is 4,000. That's so, my goodness.
I know.
So yeah, any assortment like that. Hey, look, what you can do is, if you were someone like Gary, even if you got $20, you put a bunch of the $3 lineups in, and you mix and match and try to fight. You do one with Pitts, the other with London, and I guess that's how you kind of see how it goes.
I'm just messing around with this right now, but yeah, there's a lot of different options you could do. Anyway, take a look at the YouTube if you want to actually get a look at it. We're not going to read it out for you. You have to go over to our YouTube page and see what the lineup actually ended up being like. You can't. We're not doing it.
Yeah, and so as far as that trade goes, what are you happy about that? Sad about that?
I'm
Not
sad
good
that
to
he never
see a
worked
good-
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's so exciting when he's on the field, but I don't think the guy cares about football very much. And he's made of tissue paper. So clearly, and I trust this Giants regime a lot right now for good reason. They're 6-1. They've done everything right. So if they felt like it was right to ship him off and it wasn't good for anything, then it was right to ship him off.
Are you waiting for the Giants to like crumble, or do you think that they now have some weird momentum where they're actually playing well?
I think they'll make the playoffs as a wild card. Their schedule is just too easy, and they are so well coached that they'll be in a lot of these games. But no, this is, I don't want to say fool's gold just because, you know, they are a competitive team that is so well coached, but they don't have the talent to be competing at a 6-1, 12-2 level. They might get to like 11-6 because of the schedule, but like I'm not.
There's a weird hockey element going on though that I saw the last 2 weeks. So the New York Rangers, who you cheer for when you watch hockey, they couldn't have looked like a worse team in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. If it was not for Sidney Crosby getting injured, they are just handily losing that series in 5. They were trailing game 5, 2-0. Crosby gets hurt. All of a sudden it's 2-2. They win that game. Crosby doesn't play the next 2. Rangers get 2 wins. Sneak out game 7 when Crosby returns in overtime. And then all of a sudden they start a little shaky in Carolina, but then they take over that series. They go up on Tampa, and they look like world beaters. And everyone's saying the Rangers are a team you got to watch out for years. You can, even though in the beginning it was crazy fluky, all of a sudden it's like the play actually gets better. And you're seeing that with like the Jets defense too. There's a weird thing that once you do it enough times, the team actually starts to play at a level where, they beat Lamar fair and square. They went down to Jacksonville where Jacksonville was desperate, beat them fair and square.
Yeah, so, Rodgers. Yep. Yeah, no, I'm very impressed. I'm enjoying it. I was talking to my dad on the phone last night. Like, this is all gravy. Like, this is, they were expecting, I think they have $50 million in dead cap. They were expecting this to be a lost year, and they're just, overachieving. So the Tony thing, he wasn't getting on the field. So what are you going to do? You got a 3rd and a 6th round pick. You need to stockpile these picks because the cap situation is bad this year. I mean, next year it'll be better, but they are far away talent-wise, so they need as many picks as they can get. Clearly, this regime didn't believe in Tony's ability to be a player for them, and I'll trust that. So
here's why it doesn't matter that you don't have any wide receivers. You had a plethora of wide receivers like a year ago, a whole bunch of good ones. And Jones just is not the kind of guy who can get it around to them, So
yep.
I almost understand it. He's almost better being this willy-nilly, no-name receiver. I'm going to run it, use Saquon. And, I mean, what's the deal with him? You don't bring him back next year. Or Saquon? Do you have to? Because
they might. I wouldn't.
Jones.
Oh, well, yeah, now I think every week that passes by and they win, and every game that they win, there's a better chance that he's back. And it's not because he's playing well. It's because your draft pick situation goes further down the first round.
You know how bad that is, Gary? Then now
it's
you're
fine,
just
though.
handcuffed.
He's been good. Like, he just has been. He's been good. Like, even if it's one more year kicking the can down the road, like, get the rest of the pieces there, stockpile your draft picks, and make your move for the quarterback when you have to. But I'm totally fine with him being the quarterback next year if that is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. If there's one player you can quickly, I know you don't have one. If you can just designate a menswear, who do you think definitely going to have a good week this week?
Oh, that's a good call. I think your A.J. Brown thing was really, really sharp. That was onto something there. Who else do I like? I'll give you one. Michael Carter. I think he's going to completely fall through the cracks. He's the same price as Mostert, so like I prefer Mostert probably. But when you talk about ownership, James Robinson I don't even think he suits up this week. I get New England's coming off this disgusting loss, but this is still at home, and his pass catching role is going to come right back to what we expected it to be because the Breece Hall injury sucks. But the thing that was most surprising about it wasn't that Carter was losing all this work. It was that Breece Hall was becoming an Alvin Kamara level pass catcher, which is what we expected at Michael Carter. We saw week 1, he had the 9 targets. He was doing that consistently in the second half of last year. I love Michael Carter rest of season for season long, and I really like him this week at DFS because no one's going to play him.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. This is a chunky show here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Gave you some nonsense, gave you some picks, gave you some sniffs, and everything in between. Allow those chalky people to enjoy. Like everyone who is enjoying their millionaire victory, they're showing up to the Halloween costume as a regular ghost, like a Beetlejuice sheets with the holes cut in them. And we're going to be looking to have our week this weekend. And because it is Halloween weekend, if there's ever a weekend that I can really, give them a 1-2 punch, it should be this weekend. But we'll be back with you next week for week 9. Hope you enjoyed the show. Send it to a friend, send it to a colleague, send it to your dad, send it to, I don't know, somebody. We will talk to you then. Gary, feel free to say goodbye. And that's it for this week.
Goodbye.
Rig 8 units Mountain View.